China wants everything from Africa. Its strategic location, its oil, its rare earth metals, and its fish. The result of this exponential exploitation? It's literally bleeding African nations dry and leaving them indebted to Beijing. Africa has another resource that China is very keen to utilize: labor. Chinese manufacturing firms are setting up their own operations in Africa, one of the cheapest and lowest skilled labor markets in the world. In June 2017, a McKinsey & Company report estimated that there are more than 10,000 Chinese-owned firms operating in Africa. So, what are they doing in Africa? It's simple: to exploit the people and take their resources, just like the European colonists did from the 15th through 20th century, squeezing Africa for everything it's worth. For example, Angola alone has been granted loans of more than $60 billion, which is about half the annual gross domestic product of the entire country. Angola is especially attractive to the Chinese because of its abundant oil reserves. In effect, the trade-off means Angola allows the Chinese a stake in its oil as a way to pay back all those loans. However, what this does in reality is create a severe liquidity crisis. It also explains why Angola struggles with some of the highest inflation rates in the world. In truth, China's interest-high loans have pushed many African countries into a debt trap cycle. That has led to China being accused of both debt trap diplomacy and, more generally, neo-colonialism. Now, Africa's resource-rich nations mostly export to China, with South Sudan exporting a staggering 95% of its total exports to China. While Africa accounts for about 30% of the world's mineral reserves and 17% of the world's population, Africa's share of global manufacturing has fallen from about 3% in 1970 to less than 2% in 2013. Highways, ports, dams, and efficient electrical grid systems are all things many African countries desperately need in their bid to develop their economies, and China has huge piles of cash to fund them. Chinese money has helped build a $3.2 billion railway in Kenya, a $526 million dam in Guinea, a $475 million light rail system in Addis Ababa. In return for these infrastructure projects, African countries are paying with their natural resources. Africa has been at the top of the Beijing economic agenda for some time, an easy and convenient target. Chinese leaders have been sending business delegations to every capital in Africa, year after year. These delegates secured infrastructure projects and proposed trade deals, in effect converting Africa into a second continent of China. As a result, trade boomed. Today, China is the largest trading partner with Africa as a whole. Much of the continent is now economically and politically aligned with the world's fastest emerging superpower, China. Africa no longer bows to the US. Intriguingly, at a time when millions of Africans die each year from famine, and Africa having been generally failed by the West over the centuries, China's involvement in the continent has been well received by Africans. 2/3 of Africans surveyed had a generally favorable view of China's role in their countries. How long that will continue is the question that remains to be answered.
Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this every Friday.